Hey everyone, today I'm doing a quick video on my Cube World collection since I just recently completed it. In case you don't know what they are, they're these fun little toys to life gimmicks where you've got these cube dudes hanging out in their individual houses here. They can go and visit each other. These are part of the mid to late 2000s Tamagotchi type craze, or rather following in the heels of that Tamagotchi craze, which is from the 90s obviously. There's something that I grew up with. Me and my siblings had a couple of them between all three of us, and I have fond memories of them, but I sold them off a while ago. And so just last November, I got into collecting them again, and this is my collection after 8 months. And the reason it took 8 months, I actually got most of this pretty quickly, but there was two down at the bottom there that were really hard to find, and that was actually the Kicks and Slugger special editions, but we'll get into that in a second here. And normally these guys are making a big racket. I have them all muted right now, just so I can talk over it, and you can see some of them are going to sleep. But probably at the end of this video, I'll turn all the sounds back on and you can kind of just watch them go through a full cycle. So this can kind of be divided up in three sections here, and we'll try to tackle it like that. On the left side here, you have your standard North American releases. And then on the center here, you have your special edition releases, which were also in North America. And then you have your Japanese exclusive releases. So we'll start over here with the North American releases. We actually won't start with the jumbo cubes. We'll go kind of in order of release here. And this right here is the standard Series 1 cubes. These were the first cubes released, and as such these are quite plentiful. These are definitely the most common cubes out there, especially the standard release version. Interestingly, Series 1 did not have a special edition see-through release like the later series did. For our Series 2 cast, we have Hans, Handy, Mike, and Dusty. Again, these ones are very common, not much to say about these guys. And then we have Series 3, and one thing I should have noted before is that Series 1 was 2005, Series 2 was 2006, and Series 3 here was 2007, so we're kind of getting further into the lifespan of Cube World. And this is about the halfway point. For this series, we have Toner, Chief, Dash, and Sparky. And this is where we start to get a little more rare, but I would still say that these are relatively common, maybe uncommon by this point, but the standard releases for these guys are not too hard to come by. And in the same year for Series 3 as well, these are sort of like Series 3.5 in a way. We have the Jumbo Cubes, so we have Block Bash over here and Global Getaway. These they kind of went all in on, so these are very common. I would say these are probably more common than Series 3, like bordering on Series 1 and 2 level of common. These are actually really cool though. I had both of these growing up, and I definitely have a lot of fond memories with them. They have more involved games, they can go to more locations, and by playing the game you can actually unlock more animations and locations to visit. So pretty cool. When you have them together like this, they can do animations across each other, and it's just pretty cool. Then the next year in 2008, we got Series 4 with Slam, Grinder, Kicks, and Slugger. So these, again, I would say are a little more uncommon than Series 3. I still don't think I would say that these are rare, especially the standard release like this. But this is sort of where Cube World started to wind down, so I think sales started dropping off around this time period. And these probably, didn't sell as well as the earlier series, and the fad was kind of dying out by this point, so these are a little bit harder to come by. And then in 2009, we got our final series of Cube World. This is the mod series where they really started to mix things up. We got Dart, Hip Hop, Sci-Fi, and Splash. And the unique thing about these is that they each came with a mod module. So that is these weird looking things in the background that don't have a screen. I'll bring them up here for you. So pretty obviously these are a lot more gimmicky. I think this was sort of their last ditch effort to see if they could recapture the market, try something completely new. Or maybe this is the natural life cycle. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe these were in development for a long time. It is kind of weird that they don't have screens. But the main idea with these is that they modify the animations on these other cubes in the series. And so like if you have the Sci-Fi one here, the particle accelerator, and 3 more lined up, it can do an animation across all 3 like that. And that's why these ones always confused me as a kid, because I only had the Funhouse Mirror and Dart here. And so with these being my only 2 Series 5 cubes, I didn't see any of those crazy animations other than what he would do with his own. So like these aren't compatible or rather these mods are not compatible with the older generation, so they wouldn't create new animations on those ones. They would just interact with the Series 5 cubes. And so actually there is like another stick figure living inside these, and so he can come out of here and come visit this cube and so on and so forth, and I think they could actually go from here to here, but you would have no way of really knowing. And so they can do a bunch of animations that way. These also make a lot of noise, more noise than the standard ones, and so we'll just play that for a second. So there we go, that's one of the examples. It makes like a surfing riff kind of noise. And since I haven't shown you any of these sounds to compare, I guess we'll turn these on real quick. These guys just make like standard beeps and buzzes as they're going between each other's cubes. Nothing too crazy. So these definitely have an upgraded sound ability. As you can see, you got a bigger speaker on the back there. Overall, these are not my favorite, but this is where Cube World definitely starts to get rare. These are a lot harder to come by. There's usually a couple for sale at a time on eBay, but I actually have been trying to get 2 of each so that I can see all the unique animations between the same ones. So like if you have 2 darts, they would have unique animations between the 2 of them. So the only one that I don't have 2 of right now is Splash. So that would be the last thing I would really want to be on the lookout for. So that was the standard releases. Now we are moving on to the special edition releases. And thanks to a document that Tony Ellis, the creator of Cube World, sent me, he provided me with some internal documentation for how they numbered the releases and some notes about them. From those, we learned that Series 2, Series 3, and Series 4 for these special editions were all limited to 50,000 units. So that's just cool info to know, a little behind the scenes look. I appreciate him sharing that. And from what I've seen, Tony usually watches a lot of the Cube World media that's uploaded to YouTube. So if you're watching this, hi Tony, appreciate you sharing that. So these right here are actually just reskins of the standard releases. The only visible difference being the clear plastic of the housing here. And Series 2, I would say, is definitely the most common of these special edition cubes, similar to Series 1 and 2 for the standard releases. But at this point, it seems like Cube World was still selling really well, and so it looks like all these moved. And they're more readily available online. They are still a little bit more pricey. I would say these are falling under the uncommon territory, similar to Series 4 standard edition rarity. So these are a little bit harder to track down. Then next up we have Series 3 special edition. Again, these are all just recolors, so we have Chief, Dash, Sparky, and Toner. And just like in the standard releases, Series 3 is a little more uncommon than Series 2 in the special edition. These still do show up for sale occasionally online, but they definitely are a little more scarce than the Series 2. So next up here we have the special editions for the Jumbo Cubes, Block Bash, and Global Getaway. These ones were actually a good bit harder to track down for me. Maybe they're about the same rarity as Series 3, but it took me like 2 or 3 months to find both of these special editions. But yeah, again, all the same features and functions as the standard releases. Now last up we have the Series 4 special edition cubes. Now these weren't on the internal product identification document that Tony sent me, so I don't know the number that these were limited to, although based on all the other releases saying 50,000, I assume that these are the same, although that actually might not be the case because these are far and away the rarest Cube World releases that I know of, other than the Beams editions, which are Japanese exclusive. As far as North American releases, these 4 right here are so incredibly hard to get. And just to put it into perspective, when I first started collecting Cube World back in November and collating all the data and trying to make a master checklist to see what was out there and what wasn't, I thought that these were created and then never released, or at least mocked up and then never released, because the sales started to dry off towards the end of the lifespan of Cube World. Because all I could find were a couple stock images of these, and the way these were sold is in sets of 2, so you'd have Slam and Grinder together, and then Kicks and Slugger together. So I saw, packaging for both of these, but I couldn't see a single listing for sale or that had sold, or really any evidence of anyone owning them, so I assumed that they didn't actually release. Until a user on YouTube directed me to a Twitter post from 2020, that somebody posted, I think in Japan, and I'll put that picture here so you can see it, of a collector in Japan that has all of them, including these ones in special edition. So that was at least confirmation that they existed, and then I had to track them down. And over the past 8 months, I've been just religiously stalking eBay. I'm talking like daily check-ins, search alerts for anytime anybody posts anything related to Cube World, just waiting to see these come up for sale. In that time, I have seen these cubes, this pair, come up for sale 4 times, and 2 of those times they were prohibitively expensive. I didn't even, bid on the lots or buy them or anything. The most recent time I was able to get all 4 of them together, and so that was the one that I got just recently. And then the other cubes here, Kicks and Slugger, for some reason are even rarer, and I've only seen them for sale twice, and the second time they came up I bought them as quick as possible because I didn't want to wait another 7 or so months to find them. So yeah, I'm not sure entirely why these ones specifically are so hard to find, but they are just incredibly rare. So just yesterday, actually, I got these ones in, and I was able to complete my collection here. So that's why I decided to make this video now. And then lastly, we have our Japanese exclusive editions. These ones I did have to import from Japan. These ones also took a good while to show up. When they show up for sale in Japan, they're not too expensive, but they are rarely posted. So I would say all of these are uncommon to rare, but it's just a matter of waiting for somebody to post them for sale in Japan, which, can be a headache, can take a long time. Some of these took longer than others, but I don't think any of these are particularly rare than the others. All the listings in Japan seem to be about the same rarity. It's just they're all uncommon over there. What's cool about these is that they do have exclusive shell colors, and some of them I really like. So these ones right here, the Series 1 cubes, are all grayscale. Then we have Japanese Series 2. Mike and Dusty were actually the last 2 Japanese ones I needed to complete my Japanese set, so for whatever reason those ones took longer to come up for sale. Again, I don't think that was because they're rare. I think it's just that it just so happened that in the months that I've been looking, these ones came up for sale less. And these ones are a little interesting because the colors on them look pretty standard, like they look like normal North American releases. As you can see, we've got Dusty from Series 2 standard North American release here. The plastic is pretty similar. There is a slight difference, but obviously with this being Hans and this being Dusty, these are, different characters. So at a glance, these don't look particularly special, but when you put them next to the Series 2 standard releases, you can see that they are, in fact, completely different color schemes. And they're kind of interesting. Although of the Japanese releases, I would say these are my least favorite just because they're too similar to the North American ones. And just to show you, on the back here, the Japanese ones do have Japanese writing on the covers. So that's one way that you can tell for sure if they're Japanese or not. Then next up here we have Japanese Series 3. This has Dash, Hot, Toner, and Chief. They changed the name on some of these, so like Dash is the same, Chief is the same, Toner is the same, but Hot is Sparky in North America. And then they did the same for Series 4. I'm not sure entirely why. Maybe they just thought that the names would be more marketable in Japan. But I actually really like the color scheme on these. You've got these like nice aqua blues and navy blues, royal blues, just nice blue colors. So these ones are some of my favorite of the Japanese ones. And then lastly, we have the Series 4 Japanese releases. These ones are pretty notable because they did completely different colors for each of the faceplates here, and then just had the outer shells be the same sort of white. I'm not sure if these are supposed to be off-shell white or if these are just a little sun-faded. I've definitely seen some that are way more sun-faded. I think these are supposed to be sort of this like off-white a little bit, but could be wrong there. So like for example, Japanese Series 3, we have this white frame and they all have that white window frame. And then Series 5 North American has the like art on there to match the style of the cube. But as far as these go, these are the only ones that have unique coloring for each of them. And I really like that they kind of switched that up at the end there to do like where normally the outer shells are different colors and then the inner frame is all the same. They reversed that and did all these the same color. So pretty cool. And then the very last thing here I almost forgot completely is this Series 2 release of Mike and Mike from Toys R Us. As you can see down on the bottom there, it says Toys R Us exclusive. So this is another one that I actually didn't even think existed. It was listed in Tony Ellis's release documents as just Mike Blister Pack 2-pack. And so I thought it was an error that it was a one-off that had, Mike in there and said it was a two-pack because I thought they wouldn't release just Mike twice. And then I saw this listing on eBay, and I thought originally that it was just like somebody had taken two mics and put them back in a box, but they didn't come like that originally. And then I don't know how long it took me, but I finally put two and two together and was like, oh, this is the Toys R Us exclusive that it was referencing on that internal documentation. So once I knew that, I went and got it. This one isn't crazy rare. I think there's probably a couple up for sale right now. But it was one that I just didn't even know existed. So this is a weird one that exists on its own. It's from Series 2, but obviously there were no other series or no other cubes that were released in a 2-pack with the same character like that. So pretty interesting. So that is my collection. One other note I wanted to make is that there actually is another Japanese exclusive for Series 1. It's called the Beams Edition, and Beams is like a Japanese clothing brand. Those ones are unique recolors of the outer shells as well. So you've got two of them are in this orange, and then two of them are in like this dark navy blue. So sort of like this, and sort of like, the handy over there. Unsurprisingly, those ones are incredibly, incredibly rare. When I was looking it up, I think I saw one that had sold in 2021, and then the only other place that I knew about them was in that Japanese collector picture that I put up earlier, and I'll put it back up again. You can actually see them in the top right corner. So those are the Beams editions for Series 1. And, if I ever see those for sale, I'll probably get them. Probably pay way too much money to get them if they do ever show up again. I'm not too pressed either way. I do have, the standard Japanese releases and the standard releases. They're just so rare that me being in North America, I wouldn't really expect to find them. So if they come up, I'll get them. If not, I'm happy with my collection the way it is. The other interesting thing, and I'll put a picture up of this as well, is when Tony sent me a picture of some of the Cube Worlds that he still had, I could see in the bottom right corner, which is the part that I've zoomed in on here, what looks to be Beams editions for Series 3. And these are kind of mentioned in the document, which is interesting because the Series 1 Beams releases are not mentioned in the internal product documentation. So my initial thought was that the Series 1 Beams releases were actually released around 2007 with Series 3, and then just, reskinned for Beams. But what I think actually is the case is that the Series 1 got a Beams release, and then for some reason also Series 3 got a Beams release. I don't know if Series 2 or 4 did, and I couldn't find any evidence of anyone owning Series 3 other than this one picture from Tony. So I actually don't know if they were ever released. Maybe it was like a proof of concept that they sent to him, and then by that point they just decided it wasn't going to be worth it to do this collaboration again. And then he's only got 2 of them out of the 4 for that Series 3. So I don't know if the other 2 ever existed. I don't know if they've ever been for sale anywhere. Obviously, if they did come up for sale, I would probably buy them because I'm crazy. But yeah, that was just an interesting little tidbit that I learned from that picture that he sent. Anyways, if you made it this far, then I really appreciate it. I know I said this would be quick, and turns out it wasn't, so that's my bad for that. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Hope you found these to be interesting or cool. And I guess for the end here, I'll just let the cacophony of all of these, I think 64 or 60-some cubes, play out.